What is up, guys? Welcome back. Today we are going to be doing kind of a part 2 on the roof. We're going to be cleaning up the edges, sealing all of the edges with the ProFlex or the self-leveling. I'm not sure yet which is going to work best. The sealant tape on the sides across, and we're also going to be installing the plumbing vent caps and the fridge vent cap as well, the base and the top. So stay tuned, we're gonna get up there, get cleaning, and get going. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we have the corners sealed, but we're gonna probably have to add a little bit, like there's a little hole there, whatever, but we're gonna be cleaning all this up, the edges in here, and the back of it as well, so the tape has a good sit. And just getting in there, getting the crevices in, and then we're going to be trying to remove these to the best of our ability. All these screws are like really destroyed, so we're going to have to be creative, figure out a way to get that out, clean that area up, and then install the new ones. Same with the fridge vent over here. And we'll get the butyl tape down on all of these as well, so I'm gonna get cleaning the edges up. It's not too much. I'm gonna let them soak. It's just here, across, and there. So we'll let the degreaser soak. We'll use the drill brush, get in there nice and agitated, and then we'll wipe it out, give it a rinse, and then we'll get sealing. All right. So the edges are cleaned. They're degreased, they're rinsed, and they're dry. So we're gonna go ahead, get that first bead on. I'm gonna use the regular ProFlex stuff for the inside seam, just because I know it dries a bit faster, as well as possibly the outside. Since that's vertical, I have to use the ProFlex RV, and it's possible I'll use some of the self-leveling stuff, but we'll see when we get there. Anyway, in the meantime, while that's drying, before we tape those edges off, we're gonna work on the plumbing vent caps and the fridge vent cap. So let's get that bead on and keep the ball rolling. All right, we are back. As you can see, got that sealed up. We had some complications with the sealant bottle. The nozzle broke, so I had to apply it in a slightly different manner, but we got all the feet done as well. Edge nice and tidy. We're gonna let that dry, and in the meantime, we're gonna see about putting this guy in first, and then we'll worry about these two afterward. And it's possible I might just put the tape on another day, but we'll see. Alright, so this is the base for the fridge vent, and this is the roof. Basically this is gonna replace that old metal one that I had somewhere down in that pile there, but the holes don't exactly line up. I sealed most of these, but whichever ones that are left exposed, I'm just gonna go over them again. They might get covered with the butyl tape. It's a possibility, so that'd be nice. If I position it just in between the two holes, I think it's best. There'll probably be a little more integrity there, structurally speaking, and just about even on both sides. So we're gonna basically go ahead and put in these screws that came with it. The butyl tape will go under this. I'll put some sealant in the holes before I screw down the screws, so that the screw seals itself with the butyl tape. And then usually the butyl tape is sticking out on the sides, which is fine, but normally I cut it down and then seal the edges. I might not need to do that this time because I'm sealing the roof over the edges of this anyway, so that's going to be relatively permanent, but we'll see when we get there. If you're doing this, you can do either way. Kind of depends on what stage you're at in your build process, but after that it's pretty straightforward with this. You got 4 screws, and you basically just punch out whichever one that you're gonna use to screw it down. You got 3 options. So I'm gonna put the sloped end facing the front of the RV just for aerodynamic purposes. And yeah, you just kind of put it on there, and then you'll see which hole you want to use. There's a diagram that came with this one. This is a vent mate, so it's a universal, and there's a diagram, so it shows you which hole to use for which purpose. You know, this is a universal cover, so I have the vent plate that matches it, but if you have a different base, like they have Norcold, Dometic, Camco, but I'm gonna go ahead and get this in, and then we'll work on these two guys. Okay, to remove your old plumbing vent caps, you're gonna just wanna undo your screws and pull it off. You might have some butyl tape underneath. That's pretty normal. In my case, I had to cut the heads off of my screws because they were so rusted, and then undo the threads of the screws with a plier, just like this, turning them ever so slowly. After that, you're gonna want to take a scraper of some sort, get off all the residue as best as you can, and then after that, you're gonna clean it, degrease it, wipe it, and then put your new one on. So you're basically gonna repeat the same steps as installing the fridge vent. You're gonna apply the butyl tape. In this case, I just put it over the cap instead of on the ground, because then I can push down really hard before I apply the screws. And then we'll put the Dicor self-leveling in the holes before we put the screws in, and we'll just drill it in, pop the cap on. Okay, there you have it, all sealed. Same thing with the screws. I added a couple extra screws over in this area just because that's where it was a bit soft from the other screws that came out. And yeah, once that's done, just line up that hole, pop it on. Look at that. Got yourself a brand new plumbing vent cap. Alright, to finish this off, we're going to go ahead and apply the sealant tape. We're going to go along the seams. I'm going to aim for right here, and then however much coverage we get on the roof, we'll do both sides. And if I have enough, we'll do this back strip as well. And then hopefully that should mitigate any possible future leaks or current leaks from the seams. So now that we have the new vents installed, we can go ahead and get that done, and then the final roofing episode will be getting the silicone roof sealant on. So without further ado, let's get to it. The only tools you're really going to need is scissors and maybe a couple rollers to roll your seams out, and then some sealant for the edges. I highly recommend sealing the edges. If water were to ever get in, it would be the edges, so definitely do that. And measure out your piece, cut it, and then apply from one side all the way across, and then fold it over. So we're gonna get going on that, and we'll get this done. So that's the first side. Generally speaking, this is what it'll look like. Try your best to make sure there's no air pockets or wrinkles. Nobody's perfect. I've got a couple, like over at this bend here. But as long as the wrinkles aren't too close to the seam, like this one maybe, it's possible that's where water could get in over time. I'm gonna seal off my edges, and I'm sealing over this tape with the silicone roof sealant anyway, so I'm just going for as much protection as possible. So it's gonna be the Dicor, the tape, and then the silicone, so 3 layers of protection. It is a very vibrant white, so if you don't want it to show too much on the outside of your RV, make sure you plan that accordingly for where you place it. I don't really mind too much. It doesn't make too much of a difference for me, so I just want it to be properly sealed. So this is the first one. I've got an overlapping piece in the corner, and then I'm gonna overlap it again when I come across. But we're gonna do that side, and then we'll see if we have enough to do the back, and that'll be that for the edges in the back. We're going to be doing it for the front and then across there as well, most likely, and in the front, down the front of the cab. One of the things I do when I apply the tape is I take a piece of the backing and I use that to smooth out the edges to avoid getting bubbles. This allows better friction and keeps you from getting a bunch of dirt or finger oils all over the tape. Keeps it nice and clean, gets a good seal. Alright, we've got the right side done and the left side done. We didn't have enough for the back, it only went to about there, so I'm gonna wait to get more. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you learned something on how to install vents on your roof, how to make sure they're perfectly sealed, as well as sealing your seams along the edges of your roof using sealant and sealant tape. Stay tuned for the next couple videos, guys. We're going to be getting more into installing some max air fans on the roof, resealing the roof with a silicone coating, and we've got some stuff brewing up on the inside as well. So I'll see you then. Peace, fam.